Don Carpenter on Newsradio 1270 and 106.7 FM KIML.
And welcome back, Newsradio 1270, 106.7 KIML. Don Carpenter Show. And it's 8:32. And we're going to talk about a special program right now. In studio, we have Kelly Barlow, and you're from UW, right?
Well, I am a UW staff representative.
Okay.
I live here in Gillette.
Okay. So now, is the school district? I guess the school district is involved with this program too, right?
Well, just that the participants can be students in the school district.
Because Mary Kelly's the one that set all of this up. So I know you never come on air, but thank you for setting this up. Also, we have Grace McDonald. You're a student. You got to spend a month in Ghana, which is just I imagine it's something that probably is a once in a lifetime experience for you.
Yeah, it really is. It's like it's the opportunity that you just have to take. Like, you can't turn it down. Yeah.
Now, are you a senior going in this year, or were you senior last year? Or?
I'm a sophomore this year.
Oh, sophomore this year. Okay. So
I was the youngest in the program.
Well, yeah, that is. I mean, that. So you were a freshman last year. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the program. I mean, why were you in Ghana?
So we went on a cultural exchange with the University of Wyoming, and we lived with a host family there for a month, and we just kind of experienced their culture, just lived with them, and we did some kind of community service stuff. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I mean, really, I imagine there's a huge culture shock. I mean, I imagine it's nothing like Gillette, Wyoming. I mean, first off, I'm sure the first thing people ask you, the food. I mean, is it different? I mean, how is it different?
Well, they eat a lot of starchy foods, and they eat a lot of. So sometimes they only get one meal a day, like their lunch break. So they eat as much as they can to stay full, and that consists of rice and cassava root, which is like a potato, and a lot of chicken.
I imagine a lot of chicken and
rice,
starchy stuff. So I mean, was it? I mean, do they enjoy spicy stuff or very
really
spicy? Okay, well, so I guess that took a little bit of getting used to.
There's Ghanaian spicy, and then there's American spicy, and it's two completely different things.
That's pretty cool. So I mean, if you had to pick one thing out of the entire experience, what would be your favorite thing that you did?
I really loved visiting schools and talking to the kids and just seeing their daily school life. It was really interesting.
Yeah. Now, I mean, for those that aren't familiar, Ghana is in West Africa. It's if I remember right, it's right along the coast with the Atlantic Ocean. So it's a coastal country. Tell us a little bit about maybe some of the differences you noticed in the culture.
Well, the gender roles are kind of different than America. The women mostly stay home with the kids and the men mostly work, but my host mom actually had a store in front of our house that she ran, but the women do most all of the cooking, cleaning, everything.
Okay, so it's I guess it's a little bit more traditional type.
Yeah, it's more of the old-fashioned.
Right. So I mean, now you mentioned the family you stayed with. They had a store. I mean, was it like a general store type?
Yeah, it was. They sold little bags of rice and oil and sugar, and then some little sodas and cookies and stuff like that. And just toiletries, just a general little store.
Right. Okay. Now, was this in a big city or countryside or?
It's actually the biggest city. We stayed in the biggest city in Ghana because all of Ghana is basically the size of Wyoming.
Okay.
But with a lot more people.
Yeah.
So we actually stayed in the biggest city, but it's not the capital city, which was the weird part.
Okay. So it was a big city. You probably had a lot of stuff that you could do then.
Yeah, we went to the marketplace a lot, which is there's a ton of stuff to do. Just walking around.
Coveridia, where we stayed, is known for their bead making. They make glass beads. And so they have a huge bead market where people from all over Ghana come to purchase their beads. And I don't know, in some of the history, they have the really big trading beads. So they made some of those there. But that was another market that was also in this city that we went to. And the kids did get to travel down to Cape Coast, which used to be, it's along the coast, and it's where the slave castles are. And so we got to see the history of that.
So you got to learn about the history of the country as well.
We did. And how it used to be the Ivory Coast, or the Gold Coast is what they call it now. So
yeah, that was really fun. Yeah. We got to go to the ocean, and like we got to go to the castle, and I remember taking like this beautiful picture, like standing on the top of like the castle, just looking out on the ocean, and you can't see anything else except for this like really turquoise blue ocean.
Well, and it is closer to the equator, so I mean I imagine the weather was probably a bit. Now, what time of year was this? Was this just?
So we left June 28th, I believe, and then came back July 28th. So we were there during their rainy season, which is like their colder season.
Right.
But I mean, it was 90 plus humidity every day we were there. So
yeah, well, and coming from Wyoming, I'm sure that was a huge adjustment you have to make.
Yeah, it was. Cape Coast was a nice little break. You got that ocean breeze that blew on you.
So now you're in the city. I mean, do most of the people live in regular homes or apartments, or how do they work that?
Most people lived in homes, but I guess my family lived in like a normal house in a neighborhood. But I guess if you lived closer in like the main part of the city, you would probably live in a smaller home or an apartment. Did you see any apartments while you were there, Kelly?
On the school campuses, they would provide housing for their teachers, and those were set up a lot apartments. And once they got past junior high, they would have to pay to go to boarding schools. And, of course, the dormitories were set up like apartments. And so that's where you would see that type of setup. But when Grace was talking about her host mom's store, it's not a store in a sense like we're used to. It's like a 5x7
shack, kind of.
Yeah, like a little shed, like a little metal shed. And they would just open up the doors. And that's what most of their storefronts would look like.
Nothing's like labeled with prices. You just kind of like... You kind of bargain. She has a price in her mind.
Okay, so
but you just kind of like bargain back and forth until you get you agree on a price.
Right. So there's a lot of traditional haggling going on, which I imagine that's probably an art form in itself. I mean,
it was really hard to get used to trying to like bargain with people, because like they kind of find it like rude if you don't bargain with them.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things I've heard from a lot of Americans that go to pretty much anywhere else in the world. We're the only place on earth that people tip, and we're the only place on earth that people don't bargain prices. I mean, and like you said, it's a tradition. So if you don't participate in that, they find it a little bit off-putting. So I mean, what would you say was the most eye-opening experience that you had the entire time you were there?
I have this in my mind all the time because it just like stuck with me so like hard. I was at a school one day. We were visiting a school and kind of looking at their 4-H program, because that's who we kind of met with in Ghana, was their 4-H program, because it's really big there. And so we went and looked at like their 4-H farms and visited like their 4-H program. And so we were at the school, and we were just walking around all the classrooms. The kids loved for us to take pictures with them and stuff. So we were walking around, and I walked by, and like there was these kids outside that were doing something. I couldn't really see what they were doing, but I walked up, and they were sharpening their pencils with a straight razor.
Which, again, most people, I think, you wouldn't think of school kids having straight razors, but
7-8-year-olds.
I was going to say, and these were little kids.
Yeah, these were like 7 and 8-year-olds with a straight razor sharpening their pencil. So I mean,
well, you got to get it sharpened.
I know.
It probably works better than most pencil sharpeners that I've ever used.
Yeah.
So now, I mean, you mentioned that you saw some of the schools. I mean, are they like schools here?
In a sense, yes, but also no, I guess, because the schools, the classrooms are just so different than here. They're concrete schools. They're just literally just concrete rooms with desks. Sometimes desks, sometimes not. Sometimes 2 kids have to sit in a 1-kid desk. And it's just the classrooms they look very dilapidated, like compared to American classrooms.
Right.
But I mean, some of those schools were really fortunate. I mean,
yeah. Okay. So they don't really rely on as much technology in the schools
no,
and everything
we
we
saw
do.
a sign in the school that still had a computer with a floppy disk, like cartridge thing.
See, and that was normal when I was a kid.
I almost didn't know what that was when I looked at it.
Well, so I mean, it's a little bit different, but I imagine there were still things that you recognized and.
Yeah, it was weird because like the kids there are exactly like the kids here. Like they love to play outside and they play sports and they play on their school teams and they like social media and like music and it's just so much the same, but it's also different.
Yeah, and English is the main language, right?
Yeah, they learn English in school and they're like encouraged to use English because like they love America there.
Right.
They told us openly, they were like, yeah, America's awesome, like we want to go there. And so they're like, and their teachers and parents want them to use English in school and stuff. But when they get home, their parents usually speak to them in the native language.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so most of the kids are bilingual then. They do. So you didn't have any communication problems or anything.
No. I mean, sometimes little stuff, but like not anything where you couldn't communicate with anyone.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, now you mentioned the gender roles. I mean, the women, most of the women stay home and are homemakers. I mean, what kind of jobs did you see the men doing?
Well, they had either like a store in town where they would sell whatever they were selling, electronics or toys or whatever they were selling, or a lot in Ghana you see people walking around with like carrying and selling stuff off of their head, like they'll carry it on their head and then sell it to you as you walk by.
Yeah. So most people were in business for themselves.
Yeah. There's no there isn't a lot of big corporations there, like where you can go work for. So you mostly have your own business. Okay.
So usually you would have a trade, and you would either make something or sell stuff that other people made or something like that. Oh, okay. I mean, it definitely sounds like a something, especially for a high school kid to go over and see a completely different society like that. It must be just an amazing thing.
Yeah, it was really great. I'm so glad I went. I mean, there was times that I missed my family and I just missed home and wanted to come home. But then you think about like, just look at what you're doing. Like, look at what you're experiencing right now, and just like think about that. Like, some people will never get to do this in their lives, and you're doing it when you're 15. So I mean,
yeah, well,
you have to appreciate the opportunity to do it.
And I imagine you just look at your surroundings and just see that this is something that you'll remember for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So, and Kelly, I didn't want you to think we're ignoring you.
No, I love for the kids to be able to share their experience because that's what it's about. I go along, yes, I get to participate too, but it's about them getting to have the cultural exchange.
Well, now this is for the American Youth Leadership Program. So let's talk a little bit about what that is.
It's through the State Department, and if you Google it, you can go on their website. They have many, many exchanges. The great thing about this one is that the administrators of it is at the University of Wyoming through our 4-H department. Warren Crawford is the contact on that. Everything's paid for except for their souvenir and snack money. So it's a phenomenal opportunity for kids that are 15 to 17 years old. And they have to have at least one semester left in high school so that when they come back, they do get to share with their peers that interaction. Because as Grace shared with you earlier, you get to tell the story about what you experienced a lot. And so that's part of it, is just opening up that global awareness. We did focus on nutrition, food security, and diabetes and obesity and marketing, as well as gender roles. And so just looking at how different that is in another country is an eye-opener for the adults as well as the participants, but it's mostly for the participants to be able to see that.
Yeah. So now you went along. I mean, is this the first time you'd been there, or?
This is the first time I've been to Ghana. The University of Wyoming puts in with the State Department to apply for grants. The State Department determines what countries. So for 2 years, we went to Mongolia.
Oh, okay.
So 2011, 2012. And then for 2 years, they went to Samoa over Christmas break, which was only a 3-week exchange program. And then we'll go to Ghana for 2 years. So we'll have another group going this next summer. And the applications will be coming online September 15th. And you apply, and the deadline to get it in is December 1st. And if you ask Grace, it's a pretty detailed application.
Yeah.
You want to treat it like a college or a job
Yeah,
application, and then a pretty intense Skype interview with 3 of us that are
Right.
administrating the program.
So this is open for ages 14 to 17.
15
to 17. 15 to 17. And obviously it would be something that I imagine any student would be able to gain a lot from.
Yes.
So now you mentioned that the trip was kind of focused on nutrition and a few other things. Tell us a little bit about what kind of things you did with that.
As far as the nutrition, we did have some symposiums and talked to them about why they didn't have as many food choices, which brings us to the topic of rolling power. And
old doom sore.
Yeah. And so that was what the Ghanaians were sharing with us, and what we did witness and experience being there was the lack of variety because of the lack of power. And we looked at the programs they had, that the 4-H clubs were growing food to help support the school kids during their time at school. So they would supply vegetables and meat and things like that. We visited a community that had no power, and they were interested in solar panels. They were asking the kids a lot about solar panels because they had no infrastructure for power, and they supported their entire community of 1,000 off of the 4-H gardens and animals that they raised, which was really intriguing, and welcomed us with open arms and fed us a wonderful lunch, and we danced African dances all afternoon. It was really a lot of fun.
It was I was a little sick that day, so like I feel like I didn't get to like dance my heart out as hard as I wished I could have, but it was still so fun. And like all the kids came out and danced with us, and the whole community basically showed up to see us and like talk to us, which was, you feel so like, I don't know how to explain it. It's just like this feeling of like love there. They just all like, they just want to welcome you with like open arms and just want to be your friend and just like,
well,
I
imagine there's a lot of curiosity too. I mean,
Yeah.
you probably had to answer a lot of questions. They probably thought you were from New York or California, Hollywood or New York. That's what I've noticed. Even if you go to even the Bahamas, they think every American's from New York.
They called anybody who was a foreigner an Obruni, and they didn't mean it in a bad way, but they would shout, and that was kind of took the American participants back a little bit because they're not used to being called a name as they walked by.
I heard kids on their moms, like, because the mothers carry their babies on their backs with like a cloth tied around, so then they can hold them. I heard babies and like small children say Obruni to me while I was there. So.
Well, it's certainly a huge difference in culture. Now you mentioned the power problems. I mean, tell us a little bit about how that works.
So Ghana has power, and it originates from hydropower, but their facilities are not updated. Therefore, they cannot sustain their population, support it with power. So for 12 hours at a time, on alternating days and sometimes randomly, the power will just go out, and they call it doomsaw. Which
means on, off.
Yeah, and so you just expected it, and sometimes it would go off when you didn't expect it. So just the lack of electricity.
Sometimes you had to sleep without your fan, and those were the nights that you just had to shower in the night and in the morning.
90% humidity.
Well, and I imagine coming from Wyoming, where we just take that kind of thing for granted, that it's a bit. Takes a bit of getting used to.
Yeah, it does. It would be really, because it gets dark very early there because it's so close to the equator, and because we were there during the cold season.
Right.
So it would get dark there at like 6 o'clock, 7:30, anytime in there during the evening.
And
then
day and night would be equal then too.
Yeah, and then the lights would be out, or the power would be out at 6 o'clock in the evening. So we didn't have anything to do. Like you couldn't because you couldn't play cards or anything because there was no light, so you couldn't see. You couldn't watch TV because there was no TV because the power didn't work, and it's dark outside, and they don't really go outside at night. They don't really go out at night, so we just kind of sat around.
Well, no. Now I imagine. I mean, did you use kerosene lamps or anything like that, or?
They had little like electrical flashlight sort of things,
right.
But I mean, those didn't those helped a little bit, and it wasn't bad. Like it wasn't all negative. I mean,
right.
Then you got to talk to your family a lot. I mean, you got to like connect with them, but I mean, it was just a lot to get used to. But by the end, we were all just like, oh, it's Doomsor again. Let's just hang out. I don't know.
Yeah,
you make the best of it. You have fun with it.
We had dance parties because if you had everything charged up, which that was a huge thing, and she's talking about 6 o'clock the power goes out until 6 in the morning a lot of times, and so you charge everything up when you have power, anticipating, and because batteries were very expensive there, and so they liked the rechargeable.
Variety of kind of like
flashlights
the lights
and so and they'd have their music, and occasionally we'd just have the dance parties. A lot of the kids brought cards, and they'd play Uno or cards in the evening, and there were some games that we learned that were African or Ghanaian games that were a lot of fun. And
I had a lot of little kids that ran around my neighborhood that were friends with my host siblings, so like all the way from like a kindergartner age to like a 6th grader. They all ran around together. There was about 10 of them. So they taught me a game, and I don't remember what it's called. I think it's called Ampe, where it's like a clapping and jumping game where you have to like stick your feet out, and then like whoever sticks their foot out first wins, and like they played that for hours. Like they will play a game. Like they're not, as compared to like American kids, they're more entertained without like electronics and stuff.
Right,
a lot of them don't have it. So.
Well, and I think most people they adjust to the circumstances, and you make the best of it. So I assume that you would suggest that anyone should try for this if they have the chance.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Even just sign up, because I know one girl signed up for a different program that went with us this year. She signed up for a different program, and she didn't get into that one, but they recommended her to this program. So if you see any kind of programs like this out there, sign up for them, because like you never know when they're going to recommend you to another program.
Oh yeah, well I mean, I'll just tell kind of a personal anecdote. I mean, my kid did something called People to People, and she got to spend 2 weeks in Europe, so it wasn't really that much different. But she got to be in Germany while they were having the World Cup a few years back. So it was definitely something a little different. And I mean, at high school age, I mean that's the best time to go and do something like this, because you'll take that with you for the rest of your life. So it's definitely something to try. To get into if you can. American Youth Leadership Program. I imagine you can just go to go to Google and put it in, and
you can,
bring
or
up.
you can just go to the University of Wyoming's website and put in 4-H in Ghana, and it will pull up all of the details and the application when it becomes available mid-September. So. But
well, and if you have a kid or maybe even a grandkid that's in the age range, tell them to do it.
Yes. Travel offers an education that you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
I mean, you have even to travel around the states, being from Mississippi. I mean, my husband said that's a foreign country, but anyway.
Well, it certainly has the weather like.
It does, and you would think I would have been used to the humidity, but after living in Wyoming for so long, the humidity was not something I enjoyed.
Trust me, I'm from back east, and I went home in June. Oh boy.
Yeah.
I mean, it was.
You forget how heavy it is. It's like breathing through a wet towel.
Yeah.
It was. It definitely was.
We got tired so much faster there. Like, at the end of the day, I would be wrecked. I would go to bed at like 8:30 because I was so tired because the heat just like weighs on you.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay. Well, and you're going back next year, too.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So if anyone is interested in maybe going to Ghana, this is a good opportunity. Or if you have a kid coming up in a couple years, I'm sure it'll be somewhere equally as interesting. So.
Yes. And if anyone has questions, I would be glad to answer them. I'm in the phone book, so just you can look it up, and I would be glad to answer any questions or help you out on any of the information for it.
Well, Kelly and Grace, thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you to Mary Kelly for setting things up.
Thanks,
and we'll see you in a couple weeks. And who knows? Maybe we'll see you guys in a year or so and have another adventure to tell us about.
Right.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. News Radio 1270 and 106.7 KIML.
This is the Don Carpenter Show on the new News Radio 1270 and 106.7 FM KIML. This is KIML. This is KIML. This is KIML.